So in my life, I've been called many things. Growing up in a predominantly Caucasian community, I got the usual looks, questions, and comments. Here are some of the things that were said to me, and the answers I should have given instead of silently seething. What are you? A human being? No, like where are you from? Earth? Ching Chang Chung? Ming Mang Mung? Chinese, Japanese, Korean? Mr. Bean? So I'm fortunate that I grew up more of the tail end of much racist times. I've been a victim of racism, but I've also been called a racist. Let me explain. It's kind of a long-winded story, so please stay with me. When I first started grade school, I'd put a white person hat on every time I went to school. And when I came home, I would take that white person hat off and became my, real Chinese self. Being Chinese is a huge part of who I am. At home, I would speak Cantonese to my parents and my sisters. We would eat all the Chinese foods. We always eat rice and all the different delicious foods that my mom would make. We celebrated all the Chinese traditions, Lunar New Year, Dragon Boat Festival, all the different seasons that you would have the dinner. When I went to school, I spoke English with my friends. I ate sandwiches, the good old bologna and ham sandwiches, and celebrated occasions like Valentine's Day and Halloween. Around grade 5 or 6, I started listening to American music. And yeah, I know I'm a Canadian, but Hollywood and Americanized media just had a huge influence on us. That's when the white person hat started to stay on a little longer when I came home. There were moments during my teenage years where I really wanted to be a white blonde chick, like Kelly from 90210 or Jen from Dawson's Creek, and I really felt I was rejecting my culture. I don't look like any of the members of Spice Girls, although maybe the pregnant one from the movie, but I remember checking on IMDb and she's actually Japanese. Anyway, many bottles of hair dye and bleach, and too many pairs of colored contacts from green to hazel to blue. I didn't really start to embrace who I was and my culture until I entered university. That's where I met a bunch of other Asian Canadians who share a similar journey that I was going through. There was a moment where I felt empowered to have the opportunity to choose what I love about each culture. That feeling of empowerment made me accept who I was. Really, I felt I was more fortunate to be able to pick and choose what I love about each culture and the values and the practices that I grew up with. After that first year of university and when I really started to self-discover who I was, I realized, what? I love listening to Taylor Swift and bopping my head along to her hits. And I also love belting out a good old Jackie Chan, John Hotyao's 90s hit. I love hot fudge sundaes and red bean soup and sometimes Why the Hell Not Together. I love making sloppy joes for dinner one night or spaghetti and meatballs for my family. My daughter loves it too. And then also, having a simple, century egg congee for dinner. I speak Cantonese to my parents and my in-laws, and to my daughter. I speak English to my friends and my coworkers, and then my husband and I, we speak Chinglish to each other. And it's just taking what I love from each kind of part of my culture and embracing that. And it was during that self-discovery phase where I realized I love who I am on the physical aspect as well. I love my naturally black, straight hair with these ever-multiplying grays that just show so well against the black hair. I love my olive skin tone and my upturned eyes and my, below average stature for a Canadian. It was in university where I started to realize that I wanted to also share my life and be with someone who also came from the same background, who's also a Chinese Canadian. Anyway, so back to my story of being called a racist. This was about 7 or 8 years ago, A friend of mine tells me that she was chatting with her white male coworker about interracial dating. And she mentions to him that she knows a friend, me, who only dates Chinese Canadian guys. And he says to her, that's racist. And so she's telling me this, and my first response is I'm flabbergasted and angry because I wasn't even there to defend myself. But at the same time, the second feeling that I had was, well, his ignorance made me self-reflect on my own level of ignorance. Reflecting on this moment, I'm thinking about my daughter. When she gets older and she enters the dating scene, how am I going to react when, depending on the people that she dates, whether they're the same culture or a different culture, a different ethnicity, same ethnicity, how am I going to react to that? And I think the biggest lesson of this whole story of me embracing my culture is that love and attraction is so dependent on who we are as individuals and our histories and our experiences and our background, because you can't control who you're attracted to. As she grows up and goes through her own self-identity discovery phase, I really just hope that she shares this with me. I'm just so excited to see what she decides to embrace versus things that she's had to learn to accept, especially with the things I've presented her and shared with her that what I value.